Hey there, and welcome to my strategy guide for Tyrant Velhari on normal or heroic difficulty as relevant to healers. You can use the guide below to skip to specific abilities and phases if you wish. Tyrant Velhari is a 3-phase fight characterized by her 3 auras of Oppression, Contempt, and Malice. These auras get stronger the longer they are active. She also summons an add 10% into each phase and uses abilities to gain 3 corrupted power, which she spends on various finishers. Phase 1 begins as Velhari is engaged and Aura of Oppression is activated, causing players to receive damage when they move. Tanks receive a stacking debuff called Seal of Decay that reduces their healing received and increases the damage they take, so they will be tank swapping. At 90%, she spawns an add called Ancient Enforcer that sends out 2 fire orbs called Roaring Flames in the direction the add is facing, toward the edge of the room and back again. Avoid these. This add should die before phase 2. She uses Annihilating Strike, which shoots fire in a cone in the direction of the arrow protruding from her, to generate 1 corrupted power each time. Do not go massively out of your way to move from this, since, eventually, the damage you take from Aura of Oppression outweighs the gain. Instead, to reduce the damage your raid takes from this, you should spread out around Velhari as much as possible. This spell spawns a circle of fire under the feet of any player hit by it that explodes after a few seconds, damaging anyone inside this circle. Every time she reaches 3 corrupted power, she spends them on Infernal Tempest. This spawns fire circles under every player in the raid 4 times in quick succession. By waiting until the 2nd and 4th ones to come in to sidestep them, you can avoid damage from this ability by only having to sidestep twice. You can see when the 2nd or 4th one has spawned under you because the circle will pulse. You want to do this to reduce damage you take from moving. She places a magic debuff called Touch of Harm on random players every minute or so that prevents healing by absorption. It can either be removed by healing the affected player until completely absorbed, or it can be dispelled. If dispelled, it will transfer to another random raid member. This should only be dispelled if the player affected is relatively low on health or is in risk of death and needs healed. If there is a period of time where you have nothing to heal, you should heal the players with the Touch of Harm debuff to get rid of it. Lastly, Edict of Condemnation spawns a hammer above the player's head that does split damage to anyone in the area marked by the purple circle. This pulses 3 times and the radius gets smaller each time. As much of your raid as possible should stack to soak this, and the affected player should move towards a central position in the room to make this easier. Both Touch of Harm and Edict of Condemnation are cast throughout the entire fight. Towards the end of phase 1, Infernal Tempest and Edict of Condemnation will overlap, and powerful raid cooldowns like Aura Mastery and Revival will almost certainly be necessary. At 70% health, Aura of Oppression will be replaced by Aura of Contempt. This caps players' health at 80% initially, preventing them from being healed to 100%, but every 13 seconds the cap is reduced by 5%. This makes Disc Priests almost mandatory for this fight, and makes this phase a DPS race, which is extremely stressful to heal. Velhari will now gain corrupted power by casting Tainted Shadows on the tank. This does splash damage to players within 5 yards of the tank. Again, tanks will be tank swapping because of Seal Decay. At 3 corrupted power, she places Font of Corruption on a few random players, which causes them to take damage every time Velhari casts Tainted Shadows, and do splash damage to those around them. I recommend placing 2 marks close to either side of Velhari. Those with Font of Corruption stack at 1 mark, and the rest of the raid stacks at the other with the tanks. This prevents splash damage from wiping your raid, while allowing the entire raid to soak Edicts of Condemnation. Damage reduction cooldowns like Devotion Aura and Power Word Barrier will be necessary during later Edicts of Condemnation. Players with immunities can soak the edicts on their own by moving out of the groups. This is extremely beneficial. Try to dispel Touch of Harm from those with Font of Corruption, since it is less dangerous on a player without Font. At 60% health, she summons an add called Ancient Harbringer, who will try to heal Velhari with Harbinger's Mending. An interrupt rotation should be assigned to take care of this and should not be of your concern. The DPS must focus the boss to 40% as fast as possible to remove Aura of Contempt and allow you to heal the raid back up. Focusing the add in this phase is not a viable tactic, since the health reduction becomes overwhelming too quickly. By the way, if you don't already, I strongly advise you to make sure you can see who has Touch of Harm and Font of Corruption on your unit frames for this phase. At 40% health, Aura of Contempt will be removed and replaced by Aura of Malice. You should now be able to heal the entire raid to full health. If still available, a raid cooldown like Revival could be useful to do this quickly. The ad from phase 3 should be quickly focused down, and the entire rage should stack on the tanks. Aura of Malice increases the damage players deal and take, and as before, this effect gets stronger every 5 seconds. You are likely to be extremely low on mana, and will be out of mana by the end of this phase. Velhari gains corrupted power by casting Bulwark of the Tyrant, which deals damage to the tank and a few random players. More importantly, it spawns Despoiled Ground beneath affected players' feet, which does damage to those inside it and persists for the remainder of the encounter. The entire raid should move out of this with the tanks each time it spawns. She will spend 3 corrupted power on Gavel of the Tyrant, which does raid-wide damage, leaves a ticking dot, and knocks all players back. Cooldowns may be needed to recover from this damage, and the entire raid should immediately restack on the tanks. Edicts of Condemnation are especially deadly in this phase, and will definitely require a cooldown, if stacked with Gavel of the Tyrant. At 30% health, she summons an Ancient Sovereign which shields her from all damage, until it is dead. The tanks will be swapping in this phase as before, and the damage they take becomes extremely high towards the end of this phase. They will require external cooldowns. This phase is a DPS race that requires you to kill her before your raid is overwhelmed with damage or you run out of space. So, that brings this guide to an end. Good luck in the encounter, and feel free to give the video a thumbs up if you found it useful, comment if you have any questions or suggestions, and subscribe for more.